was gonna say something's fun. We'll just go like, I'm sorry. I'll trade you.
Yeah, the one there. You should have access to CBS and EBS.
Okay, got
If you want to stay there, you stay there. Yeah, you were.
Am I right there?
Yeah. You didn't try to. He makes it cool. All right. Everybody ready? You can, I would stay where you are. There's a monitor right behind you and there's one here. We're not going to be using these for the bulk of the thing. I just wanted to introduce everything. And then these will be your guides if you want to look at them as we're going through the sessions. But we're here today to talk about the city's strategic plan and to go through kind of a couple of exercises in the 4 hours that we've got. And so as we do that, I'm going to talk through the agenda. We're going to go through and we're going to do a context map. We're going to do a SWOT. These are kind of typical strategic planning exercises. We're going to incorporate. And just FYI, I assume everybody's been here, but if not, there are restrooms to your left and to your right as you go out any of these doors. There's a kitchen right across if you need to put something in the refrigerator. Then we're going to come back and we're going to do some history and future mappings, and then we're going to start talking about priorities. And so that'll be the balance of our day. And this is going to, like I said earlier, seem like it's going pretty quickly once we get into these things. The majority of the time, you're going to be spent having conversations within the tables, and then during the outreach, we're all going to be kind of participating and putting stuff up on the boards and talking about each of these as we go through. The word of the day is brainstorming. So we're going to be doing a lot of brainstorming, both at your tables and then with the group. And so the purpose. So what we're here to do is put the foundation in place for the next 5-year strategic plan. The one that is in place right now, the current one that you have a copy of, was adopted in December of 2018. And so the goal is as we move toward the end of this year, we want to have kind of the bones in place, if not the final plan. And so what we're not going to do today is we're not going to walk out of here with a new plan. Right? That's not the purpose of today's session, although at some point we will get there. We're not going to make final decisions, and we're not going to be wordsmithing. So hopefully you didn't have your heart set on coming with a thesaurus or a dictionary and sitting here wordsmithing. And we're not going to craft specific goals and strategies. We'll do that later once we have kind of the framework and the high level priorities set up. All right. So expectations. It's Saturday. People are trying to get a hold of you. You may need to follow up on things. No worries. Do that as those things come up. But if you want to put your devices on vibrate, that would be great. All input is valuable. We want to shoot for quantity. So as you can see at each of your tables, you've got, I don't know how many of these, but you know, I don't want to say use them all, but we're shooting for quantity, right? The ideas are best in a high volume. When we're doing the outreach, I want to focus on having one conversation at a time so we're not talking over one another. And then we want to stay focused on that topic, building on the ideas of others, encouraging creativity, kind of reserving the critiques and the judgmental stuff. And then finally, at this session at least, there's no rank, right? So we're all just kind of talking through these things and hopefully leveraging everybody's perspective. And so with that, we are going to, like, I believe this was, no, sorry, I have another slide. Questions or comments? Any of that need to be clarified? Anybody have any questions about what we're doing today or what we're not doing before we get started? All right. So I think this is from 2012, but I'm not positive. So we're going to get started like these guys that have just turned the starting gun chief, don't take your gun out. And they're off to the races. All right. So for context mapping, that's the first exercise. This is going to be at your respective tables. You're going to be having these discussions. And then when we get to the outbrief, you're all going to put your stuff up on the respective pads up here, and we're going to talk about it. So what we're looking to do is have kind of this external view. Where we sit as an organization, where we sit as a city, is within the environment that we're in. and that has a lot of things that impact what you see here. And so what we're wanting you to do is talk about those things. Kind of throw out what fits into each of these categories that has an impact on the city and the way the city operates, delivers services, makes decisions, allocates budgets, all of that kind of stuff. And so once we're done, we're gonna put all of your input on these things, and then we're gonna move on to the next one. So we're gonna spend about half an hour at the table doing that. So this should lead to all kinds of quality, valuable discussion. And again, going back to the expectations, we're going for volume. So don't feel like you have to be limited in your conversations. This can be any and everything you think is an external factor that's affecting the way that we do those things that I mentioned. So with that, go for it. And let me, sorry, I said go for it. Before you go for it, as you're making ideas, as you're making suggestions about these things, writing them on the pad is what we're looking for. So we're gonna put all of those factors and trends up on the board when we're done. Yes, sir.
Clarification. Do you want us all writing individual ideas or as a table?
So I want you all writing individual ideas as you discuss them at the table, and and then at the end of it, when we go to the outbrief, I'm gonna make you choose your top something.
Gotcha. Okay.
I have a question, just in terms of process. Just trying to.
And I'm fine with that. We just go one by one.
I feel like I don't miss them.
Yeah. So it's a dialogue trend.
I'll give you one.
Right. Because I mean, that's the economics too, but I mean, that's the reality. It's not. But what it feels like is everybody is really good. But and I know
Using the voice
just to share with you. So right now, I'm seeing everybody.
measure for this.
Every art zone is that it's not developed. It is like in flat. And a lot of the voice.
Thank you.
And
But you understand what I'm saying?
again, I think that some of that is.
Somebody said. Yes, X, Y, Z, but. And then
But
just
it
saying.
didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like.
Yeah.
Year in and year out.
All that housing. is good.
And then next thing you know, that knee jerk reaction.
It's
Someone-
just another home.
And
But at the same time,
Exactly.
right up before it. It was getting even the frenzy was. It feels like that right now, from perspective.
so was that, was part of that the under uncertainties?
So uncertainties.
But develop friends would be put under. Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the same, or I'm sorry, yeah, society. Or even. And I was thinking kind of the same thing as that, it seems like there's more of a drive to, not necessarily, single family housing. Apartments and those type of things.
Well, and that's kind of the community. Too, is that. So here's what we have. All of the. Land that is designated for single family housing is under. Is underneath.
Well, it really, if you go out, talk to your neighbor, but if you get online, the ability goes away. So I can just say.
So maybe housing challenge.
Online.
And I think it's more than just what we
Yeah,
do.
basically, words are different, very different, yeah.
And it's one of the things that I think about
Right, what else?
You're brainstorming on all of them.
I would say positive, since I have a friend that is.
That's a wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that. And then. May not match where. Getting back to the thing. Yeah, we're working a job that doesn't. Are we sticking these up over there? Jobs to keep them sorted. Single family.
I would follow
Exception that single family home is like.
the last.
It's not, it's not. Yeah.
And the reality is part of this, something like one of our. But part of the problem is that they're subsidized.
Applies.
How limited down to the end of this area was precisely because
Well, I mean, three of these we did have. What about eliminating economic uncertainty in that, in regards to the economy?
That's something good.
Perception that's by, right, like, we're talking about who you live together, but then there is a divide.
very divisive.
Well, if you've got some problem, or,
The reality
yeah,
is-
public safety, because if somebody says, well, you know, my truth is that well, okay. You still have to get together as a society.
Definitely,
What
practice of the-
you know, I mean,
That's my story.
Others.
Yeah, for us as staff. It invites
Yeah, and that was never intended. Well, they were specifically supposed to be cut apart, and yet it's kind of a.
And on
It's like-
Yeah, yeah.
stack office. Into this person.
Yeah, what trending factors are impacting our city?
Well, I think the political factors that affect the city.
Either side of the divide. Here's.
For the nation.
Yes.
State or national.
One that I just wrote down, is the actions of the legislature's last shitty policies. They just, I mean, we had to issue that proclamation last week about the police issue, and then there's other ones as well. So I think that's one for political. So what about the valley, the fight to the valley? That's the other.
I think it would, and I would say that. I mean. So. Well, you're working, you've got a pretty large ESP center. Because it.
I just don't see that it comes.
A lot of
to that
them.
level. But this is as a whole.
But basically, everything's flat kind of thing. And, they're looking to do another.
Is this? That's about the.
Obviously, when they project it out, trips. And
Of course, if you take it to the general public.
the Barker Road interchange was done a couple of years ago. It was only designed to take it through. So that it was so short. It's so short. So when you look at something that may or may not build out in the next 5 to 10 years, right? But we have to pass the whole. And then we have. And in fact, it's it's very open. Some of the other things are bigger than Liberty Lake or Spokane Valley. Now we're looking at trying to figure out, you know, what are these, this development, what is the plan?
It's already started off, we're already. They've been happening, and we'll start having years and nights over them.
Watch out.
That's tough. You're not.
They also. I think we didn't get on Tuesday.
Right.
All those things.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking. That one.
Safely, so, yeah, I think the performing on the term that you used.
You know, and so all those things, we may be able to go after. Those are the early conversations, but it feels like.
Try to influence. Where is it?
I also put down homelessness. Is that, community? Political? And then I wrote down the DOT and I ranked on it. So we got one for economic uncertainty. What else for change?
So, it's not something that we're talking about right now, but we as a city should. That has to do with what is it? A lot of our.
Well,
I mean.
Well, it's energy factor.
Themselves. are not a huge part of our budget, but. Really slows down.
Right.
But certainly. Resident needs. Didn't we reach?
So, again, there's a certain direction, so it's a little bit. It's gonna happen sooner than that.
Yeah.
And then I.
Well, and, you know, yeah, that. Advisory. It has negative. Yeah. We all.
Unless we go across the river. Sewer. That's not within our.
Well, that was one of the things I was gonna ask. Should annexation be on this? or consider.
So-
considering it's always-
So that will come into play. Area of city. But the reality is the government have to make sure. We don't really have.
Not if when.
We don't have any to go west. We don't have any to go south. And we don't have any really opportunity to go to the east. Because both the topographic, but county is that's.
That can go hand in hand with what you feel safe.
So that's gonna
Know
be
that they're all
all of that on the east side of us in this very ownership. is
Well, absolutely. You-
Possibly there's a piece that need, that's only the piece that they might need, but right now that's their family, because I don't think that's gonna ever. So I
Drawing
feel
order is the.
guys,
Why first thing you do south,
It's all.
the lake?
because it's fully developed.
Very.
Look around, it is. It has to be.
But then next. But then-
You get a breakdown for us. I'm gonna sell
Let's
that.
go back to.
You put a density in, when you put a density, that's.
South of our boundaries, all the way
If you have a
out.
people, if you put them here, you have 100 people around here.
Well, they do. Well, even if they
Well,
do.
right, but if you're
Big houses and
that means
more tax money.
Well, okay, and that,
is double.
that
what
may
you
well,
got.
they've already got
Spread
urban
out.
services, et cetera.
Well, but yeah, you're only
From
adding
a land
one
use
apartment
point of
complex.
view, doesn't make
Pieces
sense.
of-
Yeah,
Well, revenue.
right, and so that may have changed, but the way I've heard the story is that community is
Not actually.
why it's very, why we don't want Lakeless is because that was. The top of the owners to move forward with incorporation.
So economy, we've got order, looks like it's city build out, boundaries. I got certainty and else on economy.
The tax rate, right? There's the valuation. How long do people do this? I would say really far. With the economy. Going up and down.
Used to be much.
And unfortunately, the majority of the taxes don't have any. Yeah, the city is always, it is quite the deal.
Yeah.
In terms of the.
Sounds right there, the technology.
But everybody loves to live here.
So does this, have a little bit to do with the, once we get full and we can't expand and add more businesses and
More people live there.
basically
Way in on.
100%, then is that playing the budget situation with what we're talking about the taxes? I mean, we did first, we put it on rate, but we're talking about just more.
Sales tax. I mean, most of our businesses turn into that.
One more question. I'm sorry, about economy, I know it's looking less about building up. Rather than building out. Is that, do we restrict?
What? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's commercial.
But,
No, so.
I hope they can put it like that.
For the, to get your energy credits, to be able to build. In the state of Washington, if I do a gas, price, even if it's 98% sufficient, I could have.
We do have the ability to sell.
You'll get some.
I think it's been a
Yeah.
matter of.
Everybody.
The problem is it's very hard to, once it's been developed.
Since the development.
To go up. It is a very difficult.
They're not even for gas. Through their.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now. They actually now CLT, they can actually do multi-story. That's kind of a.
I think I don't know, it's a lot cheaper.
I'm just wondering in terms of, you know, we're talking about development, homelessness, the housing challenges and all these different things. If each of these are trying to. High rise is wrong, word. I'm not talking about like 20 stories, but a building that could have 4, 5, 6 floors of. apartments.
So we.
One of the cattle.
Energy.
Four stories. And 80.
It certainly is. It is, and it shuts down hydroelectric.
I mean, the reality is we've got. It is like.
It's
gonna change.
Serious, and it's, you know, so those are, that's actually.
This was given.
Itself. And we actually what it was.
So, a rent for. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm all like.
Well, and the reality is that. What? But. Everybody's talking about. Or it's actually getting built, doesn't necessarily. That was one of the. It's a guarantee that it's, and the reality is that you don't.
Water straight out of the ground, yes.
I know.
That's pretty impressive.
But it will be interesting. Mark, how much time do we have left?
So we've got.
No, I mean, in this discussion.
So we've got about 10 more minutes if we need that. So how are we feeling with idea generation? Are we still coming up with new things?
Yeah, we're only about halfway through.
Okay, all right, keep rolling.
Right, so yeah, so one of the things I want to say is. It's an excellent factor. To have.
That's where it makes sense.
I'm just saying, that's. They're creating or developing.
It's gonna be a very big lift, even if we just check boxes.
Well,
We have
trends,
an- we have an
That's
option.
just different than this.
As not.
So, I would say.
Days. Is what we would do, this is what we want to do.
They're gonna want, definitely don't touch my golf cart.
So we're at, well, maybe that's a good transition to community trends. Concentrating to the next phase.
Well, that's.
But I think.
Options, education options.
Yeah. And just see that.
But need on.
There's some.
Silver.
Here's the other number.
It also feels like the, maybe this is my perception, that we used to be more technology.
Oh, yeah.
That was Icon, HP, and then was another one, but I can't even recall. Yeah,
They're like, it's supposed to be Silicon Valley.
yeah, and that has kind of.
That's because that's right now, the recession has been technology.
That's true.
That's such a
And I'm sure it's. The city. People working.
Yeah.
Years ago.
The last designer against the city. Are technological, the technology that we have available at City Hall.
Yeah, so that's a good transition into technology as well.
One of.
Yeah. 17, 61, yes.
What else? Either community or technology.
Interest. Citizens of what's going on. People really want to know, like, trans strategy is one thing, but really want to.
Oh.
Less. Yeah, you know, sort of like extra, but we, something like this, you know. Or we can.
That's all.
Don't want the decision, the less.
So,
I think so.
a couple of thoughts.
There's something out there. Leaning towards there is, I think we all are doing great business plan. Just.
Maybe we reach the point where everybody else is other things, most of it is.
I feel like we've been there for a little while, like just kind of teetering out that.
And well, and these meetings will have.
Everybody's there till 10.
I can't, and even the public, yeah, oh, that's my problem.
I'm away until like.
Well, from a safety standpoint.
Whatever we.
I need.
Yeah, one of the things that I have noticed, just because of my day job, I go down to cities and towns. Is that, and this kind of goes back to this, point you made about, I don't know. Oh, city hall technology, just city hall layout. And having people be able to come into a council chambers or office or whatever and it's professional looking, it's not just a bunch of tables. Yeah.
The other thing that I would say. And you're the. Yeah, totally, and we've got, I mean, number one, taxes, but we have no place to actually go, even if we had resources.
So maybe one of our recommendations on here needs to be looking at the new or expanded city hall.
Yes.
I love that our moderators from scratch. Or utilities. I mean, I can see it, but no one.
Not everybody else. Recording with years.
Yeah, that's.
Oh.
So come on.
I was just gonna say, you know, we only have so much land. And. What's the land left to the river, what's left to build on farmland is, like I said, it's commercial. So.
Really was very subpar.
Well, I can see that.
Very hard.
You're gonna have residential flooding out to fix the shit.
But the other thing is that.
That might be enough land use, but yeah, I think it is.
No, it's, I know that sounded like a one.
No, no, that's, I
But,
think,
but some of the things that I know that it's, you want to see the greater engagement, whatnot.
With the right resources, right? Like, that's, you gotta talk to people, you gotta right? Like, you guys need to. In your spare time. You don't have, it's gotta be, we've gotta be able to match.
So I guess that's
With the.
that's the question is. Right track.
And.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been here, so, you know, again, in regards to against the law, again, how fast are we growing, right?
Yeah, what we're seeing is, it's been unprecedented.
all right, so we've got those, I put staffing capacity as not only residential, but also technology. What, final two are the resident needs and certainty. I've already got the economy as one of the uncertainty.
Because there will be.
So I will say that when you see how big, now granted, when we get all the stuff in there. It's a good start, but you're right.
I think resident, well, I don't know all of these definitions. Here, some it's the area, like. The biggest reason here is what John was saying, but, making sure that whatever we're putting in this, like what our mission, our goal is. We have that with residents, the base. But like.
The walkability.
Build out.
The events
Yep.
are defining.
And then there's quite a few different events.
Yeah, and a lot of it, most of it that is community driven.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's still got that small town feel. No, I mean, no, it's don't. This is like. Even though you have.
Well, and.
Looking at that graph, 2032.
I haven't heard any specific questions on the building status.
I talk about it with my staff all the time.
What for you to do now is spend the next 5 to 7 minutes prioritizing, say, your top 5. The top 5 in each category that you consider to be most significant. So if you've got more than 5 in each category, you're gonna have to start figuring out which ones are more significant than the others.
Well, I put the letters at the bottom, so I could figure out which ones are there.
Why don't you just say quantity?
We're gonna use all of them.
So we said
Yeah.
environment,
So as long as you have.
regulatory, just.
And I also put, border challenges, the fact that it's a completely different climate, a couple of thousand feet away.
Oh, yeah, no, and just to highlight.
Yeah.
where you've got county commissioners, that they don't even want to acknowledge that there's the city over here.
Yeah.
That would be like. So we need to prioritize. So on society.
So once you've got 5 for a category,
You bring development, trends, and towns got challenges.
Yeah.
We only have 5.
so once you've identified your 5 most significant in a category, put them on that category.
The sticky note itself.
Yeah, there's only 5 on that one, so. Oh, yeah. I know. Economic, let's see, oh, we got a lot of economics. Okay, so, well, those are about the same. Try to go top full, just see everything else below that. Tax valuation, boundaries, annexation. Look at, what does the city look like at build outs and the uncertainty of the. It's about.
We're gonna build a big wall. Winter time, nobody's.
And then technology. We're good on technology too. There you go. And you want us to put them up there in terms of their.
And once you've gotten your top 5, put them on each category, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, orange should be at the top.
Yeah, we go.
Yeah. That happens. Oh, actually, something that could have been. The evening and then the package. I'm glad I'm not doing it. Yeah, that was my goal. I don't feel like I am. Well. Yeah.
I've reached the age where I can understand reality of sustaining injuries, doing everyday things right. So the other day, I either or turned wrong or something, and now I've got this. In my shoulder, that's like, it reminded me, I had something going on.
Really easy.
So you've got an actor.
I don't
Yeah.
like.
Right, exactly.
I would be your parent. If the trails.
That, well, yeah.
I've been in a liquid, I can't get out. I showed you over yesterday. Those are things that don't happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that's the same thing that we had, so I looked at it. And the feeling that we changed it.
The only thing I can't understand. On my head, where it's certain.
Was that still? Was that the whole end like that? Yeah, there's certain places.
You think that the cells are gonna have EPI?
We'll invite people to come in.
Go up there, and there's more, whatever you like.
So, the library.
They've only done.
Yeah. This.
Hitting the base and going straight up or something, and they're not great. I don't understand this.
And I really thought I could. Did you advise that?
Weird.
Father's Day. My first thought was to Father's Day. I'm not gonna scare, I don't wanna scare Bruce, if you do this anyway.
I'm certified.
No, that will be here.
Yeah, so they just kept monitoring her, whatever, she ends up being born on my birthday. And it was the best birthday present ever, as I always tell her, I didn't tell her why it was the best birthday present ever. I was so done.
It's a city. Especially with the girls. Yeah.
Oh, Susie.
Both mine were 3 days.
Yeah.
It is a lot, but that, they
Oh, yeah.
kept going for like, stress monitoring. So, they
Not all
not-
they married.
Yeah.
And so then. She felt that 10 days in a week.
Yeah, one was 8 pounds, 7 ounces, one shrimp. And they had to like cut their fingernails and like.
But that's the first thing I remember seeing.
Well, and the youngest one. And before she was given, they had done that.
Yeah, it's a lot different with a 3-year-old.
Why was it
Or
like,
being parent.
and then. That's pretty much.
To get you young, I think.
Once, you know.
When you were
Those
school,
are-
Kind of chill, and just like-
old parent there, and granddad.
We homeschool.
Oh,
Yeah, we homeschool, so I don't have that aspect of it. Yeah. That's for sure.
They-
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Nice work. So we've got your top 5 or most significant things that you collectively determined are in each of these categories. So what I want to do so that the whole group hears the wisdom at each table. And from the top team, which is the orange team, apparently. We're gonna start with table 2. Just kind of somebody or somebody's just walk us through a couple of the conversations that you were having in each of these categories and how it related to what you've got up there. Not for all 5 in each, but just kind of talk us through the way that you work, the methodology and what you landed on a couple of these categories. Don't everybody jump up there at once. Table 2, 1, 2, 3.
I don't know, through the post-it notes.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Half hour ago.
I know. Okay, we have energy trends, Zen City, technology trends, access to more information, tribal. Yeah, so I think that information plays a key part of societal trends, particularly this day and age. And so there's a significant importance on having access to information and getting it out to the public and to our society of living with. What's tribalism again?
Just tribal is a separate, it's being, instead of being.
Silos.
Divided in silos.
We had that right now. I don't think energy trends.
Probably-
I don't know.
probably having community or-
I would consider that economic.
She even edits herself. She's.
Yeah, I'm editing. So yeah, that's kind of what we had. first. A lot of the technology, and information, and the influences that we can have on society and generally within our community.
Good, now, go down the,
Oh, you want me to do all of it?
yeah,
Okay, let's see, energy trends. Which one was energy trends?
wherever you think it fits.
Just say.
It falls, Jen, it fell under like two or three different categories.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna take
A couple of ours, just go.
Okay, economic climate. We have energy trends, available housing, and trending higher than surrounding area. Obviously, available housing is a huge issue. Particularly not just in our neighboring area, but in our area. And we were discussing amongst ourselves how this area could be a little bit more challenging to get into for those that, don't have the appropriate or significant income. And then trending higher than surrounding area, that kind of ties in with it. So I think Councilmember Spencer was mentioning, this. But I mean, this area is definitely at a different level, which makes it harder for people's access. And then energy trends, economic climate. So from the building perspective, all the changes that are happening right now politically, that are driving things like, the gas issue versus electric, and how those changes are going to impact, locally, things like if the dams go away, then how are we going to power our electric vehicles that are supposed to happen in a few years, that kind of thing. Political factors, energy, that kind of ties into that same. We did a few that could fall under multiple categories. And then state, national influence, interpretation, lack of consistency. So, how does the state and national decision-making process affect us locally? I think our table mentioned that it doesn't directly necessarily affect us always, but as we go down the path, it's going to start affecting us more and more on a council level, and beyond. So it's important to stay aware of those influences. Community trends. So within our community, we felt that education options are changing. Meaning not only do we have public school access, but we have access to private schooling. That seems to be becoming more and more of a trend, even within our own community. Trending things that have been kind of conversations for a while, dog parks, golf carts, that golf cart conversation, is that ever going to go away? That's definitely a signature community trend of ours. And then growth, growth is for itself, significant growth, and that will continue for quite some time. Technology trends, working from home, that's what we have.
Well, I think we had Zen City over there.
Oh, yeah, Zen City. So technology trends, the trend is changing, from what it used to be, where people are working from home more, there's a lot more flexibility in the workday and how people are accessing work. And then with that, also how we're communicating with our citizens, aka Zen City, gathering information from citizens, also dishing out information to our citizens, versus the old school mailers, which are still quite important, but now it's just branching in all these different facets of information and getting that through our modern day technology. Resident business needs, growth management act changes. That's not my role. Yeah, I'm not even trying to describe that. And then, from what I'm gathering, it's very difficult to change growth management act, right?
It's changing as we speak.
Okay.
Active conversation.
And then resident business needs, what do our residents need, what do our businesses need to succeed, within our own community? Can we provide a community draw? Or, can we continue to provide a community draw for businesses to come to our city? Residents to come to our city, make it affordable. And then, business friendly climate and land limits. We are landlocked, if you will, with the county to the north and the county to the south. Can they expand? The opportunity there, is having a topic of discussion, or are we stuck in our own parameter? And, accessing the city, and we brought up at our table that we really only have one true access point to our city. Can we expand on that and have more access for emergency purposes, for all kinds of access purposes? Uncertainties, Chief brought up emergency management planning. I'm not sure where he's going with that. Something about the West Bank. Yeah, do we have a plan to accommodate coming or going? Yeah. And in their Teslas and, we'll have charging states with snowplow so we can plow after the. Interaction with neighbors to the west, so obviously relationships are a little bit uncertain with certain neighboring municipalities, so we're down with that. And revenue sources support residents, and then crime trends, obviously that's ever changing. And, Chief is doing everything he can to keep up with what's the latest on that. I mean, I can't believe how much it's changed just since I've been here, 12 years. It's the things that I hear him talk about now, it's like, it was never a topic of conversation 12 years ago. Economic downturn, not if, when, so huge uncertainty.
All right, very good. Table 1, and we're going to need to pick up some time. Okay, if we go a little bit over, but if you want to run through your top for each category and just kind of tell us what they are. And I'm expecting as we go through, we're going to see some commonality.
All right, I'll be quick here. So societal trends, we talked about housing challenges, the development frenzy going on here, as well as other parts of the state. What was referred to as kind of a change in the American dream, folks no longer wanting to necessarily do a single family house with a white picket fence. Maybe they want to live in a multifamily building now. And then the homeless situation and how that's growing in our state. Economic climate, obviously uncertainty of the economy, which was mentioned before. We also talked about the annexation and boundary issue. One of the ideas or thoughts that was brought up is taking a closer look at what the city's going to look like at build out for the purposes of city budget. The city budget situation in the next 10 to 15 years, Growth Management Act issues as well. And then we've also talked about in regards to what the city's going to look like at build out, perhaps encouraging people to build up rather than out. Political factors, relationship with a city to the west that starts with an S and ends with a Spokane Valley. The actions of the legislature and city policy that we've had to deal with, obviously, for the last couple of years, it just seems to be getting worse in terms of how that impacts the city. The perception of a political divide, the fact that 7 of the 8 city council and mayor positions are up for election this year. So that's a big political factor that's a little bit of, brings a little bit of uncertainty. And then the fact that Idaho is expanding I-90. We've got I-90 expanded right up to our city border, but we're kind of a choke point in the city and how we deal with that. Community trends, new people, more families and kids living into the city, which is good. An increased interest in what's happening in the city and City Hall. Perhaps the fact that we need to look at the next phase of the city in terms of not only building, but also a new and expanded City Hall to provide for more room for the employees and the community. And it was thought that we are no longer really known as a tech city. I mean, we used to be really known as a tech city, and now that's kind of shifting a little bit. Maybe that might go over into the technology trends, but I'll just keep going here. The ability to talk and communicate with citizens, the working from home shift, the fact that that provides a little bit of an opportunity for folks to actually keep their business here. They're going to go out and have lunch. City Hall technology is something that is important, of course, for the employees and being able to do their job. It was thought that we should talk perhaps in the future about changing to having more frequent city council meetings so that we're not necessarily there until 10 or 11 o'clock every night. And then the staffing capacity of the city as well. For resident business needs, parks and walkability, the fact that we should always have that as one of the top priorities. The accessibility of government is important, of course, and having more gathering space in the city. And we ran out of time, so we didn't get to uncertainties. But
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. All right, table 3. You want to walk us through your category?
Go to Kyle.
All right, so for societal trends. The work from home discussion, influences that social media has on our teens and our, school age population. What are we gonna do as our residents start to age, and how do we, account for the services that they're gonna need, as they age in place? And then obviously, homeless population, I think that's been a common theme through all of these tables. So economic, so rising property taxes or just taxes in general, rising cost of living. So interest rates, it was discussed at our table that, you know, the day of 2.53% interest rates are probably a thing of the past. And how houses are gonna account for that and how banks account for that. Keeping and attracting big business. So we talked about, Chris just mentioned the transition. We are not necessarily maybe known as a tech city anymore. How can we keep and attract big business so we can, continue to support services? So, and then obviously, we had a discussion, lodging tax, advisory committee met, last week and discussed, mechanisms that we can, better promote tourism in, Liberty Lake. So political factors, discussed of GMA, we talked about GMA as well. The effect of other jurisdictions on Liberty Lake, obviously that's a pretty common thing as well. A lot of this obviously is, I think everybody talked about in their own pods here, lack of support in Olympia, for the east side. And then, the big divide, so what we have in terms of politics, right versus left, and then, again, is building relationships with their neighbors, I think is, another one we talked about. So, community trends, so growth in local residential population, aging population again, keeping residents informed and connected, and then just availability of housing. What's things that we talked about for technology, vehicle electrification, that's coming down the pipe. We know that that's going to continue to expand, and then underserved communities without access to technology. How do we account for that? Residents and business needs. What are our services going to look like to build out? Services with the homeowners association, all the HOAs that we have, how are those relationships going to be managed with the city? Attracting services to help the aging demographic again. Transit education for seniors, letting them know all the availability out there that is currently in place. And then how do we tackle our aging infrastructure? The city is just a little over 20 years old, and we're gonna have to account for turnover in pretty major infrastructure. So the uncertainties, how does our transit system look as we get into Kootenai County, and how can we better partner with them, get them on board with connectivity to our communities? Concerns about the aquifer supporting growth, maybe not necessarily a concern now, but it's going to be at some point in the future. And how do we, how can we best utilize that and those services? So city land use, city land, also city boundary. So what is that? We obviously talked about that with the other parts as well. Forest density, another thing we talked about, and how that will affect Liberty Lake and what our community looks like right now, preservation of that. Lack of support, stateside for law enforcement was discussed. And then, just the fluctuation of laws that we talked about over in Olympia and how that affects us here. So those things are about.
All right, very good. So you heard some of those common themes. I always think it's interesting how you hear some of the same things, but they show up in different categories as you have your respective conversations at your table. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all of these, we're gonna put them all together. And in the minute that we're gonna transition, if you would take the rest of the ones that you have, if you have any that didn't make it above and put them below the line, we'll capture those too. And those, you don't have to categorize those, we can once we get in there and start figuring them out, we'll assign them if you want to do that. Did you guys have any? Okay. Obviously, we talked to you. All right, so what we did in this exercise was kind of talk about what the environmental context is. Where do we sit and what affects us from the outside in? And the next exercise, which is probably the most traditional strategic planning thing that people do, we're gonna talk about internal. We're gonna focus the lens on the city as an organization. So don't think of the city limit, the boundary necessarily, although that's part of the organization. We're talking about the city as a governing body, as a service provider, as a regulator, as a tax collector, those kinds of things. And so what we're gonna do is the same thing that we just did. We're just now gonna be focused on the city's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so we're gonna go through the same exercise at your tables, talk through those things and kind of come up with, what the city's strong at, what it's weak at, what the opportunities that are out there for us all, what some threats are. And then we will debrief or outbrief at the end of that.
Oh, okay. Well, assuming we can get. All right, so. All right, so strengths.
Yeah. Are these the one on the bottom? Oh, wait, no. Are we like, are we putting in the energy and making good work? Anybody that is like, I don't feel like we're having a bad outcome, right? I feel like.
Another one would be hard.
Spoken to.
Right.
Okay, staff.
Just don't get it right. No one will bring it.
Just best way to describe this, the feeling of community.
Government operation. Right, as an organization, so it's less to do with the. What are, right now?
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh, it's right.
Now we're looking at
This also has the potential. The fact that we have open land
Yeah, what
that
are
we
our
can bring in new businesses, let them build on. Yeah, exactly. Then it turns into a weakness.
service level?
There's still mints. It really isn't there.
No, it's just so good. So let's give
They pulled their building permit, but they haven't even started. I don't know, but my understanding is now they didn't. I mean, they've done this to that.
Ever done?
Literally, so, but I.
You're dead.
On the RM.
Oh.
Unless,
Yeah.
180 days.
Well, that's what are strengths,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Automatically.
Oh, this nation, that's now. Oh, that is true now. We agree.
Oh, yes.
But we're-
You guys have.
The other strengths.
So I think that open space and parking for residents. Part of that, is part of what people.
Oh, we just finished.
Oh,
Sorry.
See there. Say business.
Partner and trade. Any others?
So I think that, well, I think one of the.
I think it's also.
Well, we're out of, we got it.
Right.
Weaknesses.
Call like our technology.
We're on opportunity now.
Anyway. Mark, you need to plug in your.
I put down staffing and then one that was brought up earlier, but I think there's repeating is the fact that we'll have one entrance to the city. Yeah, I've got that. I can't do that.
It's not, and the plus is what.
Yeah, so I guess.
Community might. It's my desire. But we're ahead of you.
Weakness there is, I think. So dealing with state issues, everything.
I need a traffic comment.
Yeah, I don't feel like one of the bigger
I think it's.
voice. Not a thing. But there are.
Get there, then.
So.
Literally, it's part of the practice.
It is, let's break that.
I hate to say it. Yeah, that's pretty. That doesn't do what it is.
Opportunity.
I think we have the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
But I would say the straight line is our. I would say, I would say public safety, it's just like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can have the one necessary. And those are opportunities to, we need opportunities to have the kind of things that can come with those. And public. Yeah.
Well, I also.
Look at the margins of water.
Well, I expect that.
An opportunity.
Opportunity.
Well, it is for us to try, we have enough resources.
I'm gonna say this again, I said this pretty early, but. We can utilize.
Probably gonna benefit from the speed out, that's hotels and things fill up downtown, and they're starting to look further away from the city. Yeah.
So. Community.
Yeah.
It's a weakness in terms of this. We talk about. He doesn't really.
So. Yeah.
Open space,
So I think that. What is that? It would be good.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think.
Start.
City in our structure is so, but.
Selling it? Selling it?
That could, whatever we get,
Well,
it's an opportunity to, you know, we're well with it.
If you think
There's a
about
variety of different.
well, I'll leave on to, all of you. So if you have another.
Size of that.
Correct.
Size of the area.
I'm gonna play it.
That's, retired in- Too late, you already said it.
So I'm just at that age now where I feel like,
One bad day away from.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so,
There you go. Yeah.
And I'm also putting state issues on that.
Well, that's just right.
There's opportunities, they incorporating more. Bringing more ideas out.
Yeah, no.
Incorporating them. Let's say.
Again, I'd like to, I like to.
Other.
I'll put an opportunity.
There's obviously.
You did say state.
That's just the whole thing. I just. Have a. Here's the list, but.
Dental assistant.
I know, right? And actually, the Spokane Valley thing actually.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean a town? Yeah, we're gonna.
No, so really, it's not like it's.
Yeah. We usually do it for spring snow somewhere else. No, I'd have to.
Even though maybe this is for
Yeah, but Oh,
10 years from now.
Do you have anything for threat?
Don't know.
Ready to do a couple.
Does it start to become a threat now?
There's a follow.
Yes.
One of the
I can
things-
tell you, I used to sit down right now, again, just. People are told me a lot of the. And talking about just. the whole-
They just throw it out there.
You know,
Go into recession. When you look at it, revenue sources.
Just the, you know what, about the only place I can't speak business.
Go away or are.
Those between TC and Rockville, I don't know if that was. So I'm. And so, that, everything else, you're gonna see it, you're gonna see. We're trying to.
Not that I'm saying I want to change it, I'm just saying.
That's already,
I
that's
don't think
already.
it's just that 4.10 or-
The one is vested.
Well, this is a good list.
I mean, that's also a strength, so,
Exactly.
It's less, a little less finance. That's okay, you can hold it back to the threat and-
Records, we're obviously we're gonna go with the water. You know, we don't have to do that. Well, these boards.
So, yeah, no, that's a good point, and again, I only like to work, but there are things outside of our control. So there's things outside.
They don't want to change.
Water is.
And the people that are rich, the folks that have been there within the last 10 years, they love it.
Yes. Yes, it has the potential to, and, it's on the, very. And we had a pretty good handle on what was happening with water. But that was one of the things that was sort of concerned.
Was I, as well as the.
The other one, I just want to, is that. No.
Politics in general, and then we have. What's that? And then the.
I'm not sure that they're both-
Well, we had, okay, now, that's true.
that it's just a wildfire. I mean, urban areas.
There's still a lot of things that are put beyond.
No, that is true. But they really truly, you know, the reality is when I see that, or I see about the press of. No, I just, it's beyond my capacity, and so I just, I didn't say it enough. I was mad with him, I didn't work as anybody else, so I'm not worried about it.
So I added technology, and I also added work from home as an opportunity. Because if all those people are working from home, they're not spending more money.
But no, that is one of the things that I think that we probably have
I think.
a higher percentage of those community people working from home because of the nature of.
Red tape, government's red tape. Such that causes us to not be able to make decisions.
Again, an opportunity. Impact on.
Legal, potential legal issues. Or so. That was. Somebody was contributing on the role. Yeah.
So there may be an opportunity. But you're gonna have to
I was gonna add goats to our strengths.
Okay. Yes.
The other thing, that was a little piece under the, your comment about the financial disaster. That really, I think, bigger issue.
We have a Super Bowl table there. Which. Seriously looking at.
So I'm gonna give you a 5-minute countdown to finish up your recording of all of the SWOT. And then we'll start out with.
We'll look at the influx, but what about, we have any sort of emergency communication plan? So if you're like, I'm going to leave departments and communicate with the entire city, you know.
The market.
Yeah.
Play those street players.
There's.
That was like, spring.
There's times where they're all down. And the only people that get that signal is the emergency. What are the issues with?
I'm left-handed, I wonder if that has. Good idea.
What else do you have? Rocky Ridge.
Oh, that would be just nice.
Oh, yeah. the train. He didn't, you know.
So, yeah.
We don't have.
So trying to, so.
Still more.
3 years.
It is. Right. If you need to go away.
If you feel you've got everything recorded, go ahead and start putting them up in the respective categories.
No matter how many we have.
No.
Okay, good. Right, so I think it was, yeah, I got, take it back. If you.
We have issues.
Like the time everybody gets all the. Or another pressure. Computers, meets all of the requirements. But then also kind of do what we're doing for now. You know, super interesting. Work with people for all of them. Are you seeing?
Oh, I didn't check. I brought watcher.
That's what I probably, was like, I bet he's out. I
I'm here to walk it.
Oh.
And we were gonna go with your placement. If I came up. No, I see it. There's about 5 people. All the way over.
Yeah.
But we.
But some of it is-
There was 5 minutes. No. But we did. Plus.
They do, and they have.
Yeah, but we also.
I guess.
Well.
Thank you.
All right, so it looks like everybody's got them up. So this time we're gonna start with table 1. And if you want to come up and talk to us about what you've got in each of these categories. And kind of think about it in the context of the earlier exercise, right? We've got all of these external pressures or things happening. And now we've got an internal look at the organization, the city as a whole, looking inward. So how do these things interrelate? So team 1, walk us through your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
All right, our strengths, we said staff of the city, the feeling of community and our culture, engagement, availability to build and the opportunity for new development, parkland and trails, our financial footing, our planning and the police force and safety. And then the most important thing we mentioned as far as the strength was our coach.
We didn't
So-
think of that.
Before you move on, Chris, help the group understand what you mean by culture.
The culture, not only of the folks who work at City Hall, but also the city as a whole. Because everybody wants to go to events in the city and they're going to Fairfield Park and all the other things that happen in the city. So just kind of a feeling of community engagement. Weaknesses, the City Hall building and technology. Staffing, in that, not the actual staff is a weakness, but the fact that we don't have enough staff is a weakness. Our entrance to the city, we discussed that a little bit, that we only have one real big entrance to the city. Dealing with state issues, marketing and engagement, that can also be an opportunity. We feel like it's improving, and will give us an opportunity, which we'll talk about here in a second, and growth management. And then, opportunities, engagement with Zen City, building relationships with other cities, including the SP next door. Investment in city properties, community visioning with the comp plan, town square, and the real opportunity that we have with the way the economy is now on work from home and perhaps expanding shared workplaces. And then threats, we had, state issues, the economy, the city of Spokane Valley, land use intensity, and our build-out threats, infrastructure, and what we're gonna have available as the city expands, technology, and then the final one we said was wildfires / emergency situations. That we probably have a much bigger issue there than we really realize. Okay?
Any observations before we move on to the next team? Remember, we're not using critical judgment, but any observations, any opportunity to build on those ideas, and maybe we'll hear that through the rest of the briefing. Anything stick out?
I love the observation on the environmental threat.
Yeah.
While it's coming from external, it's something we need to deal with. You know, we kind of started a little bit of that conversation in the fire department with protecting our eastern boundary, but, that's something that we need to refresh.
And I think the fact that so many of this, the houses in the city are so close together, if we do end up getting a wildfire, let's say that comes down like a peak, or, you know, it's just somewhere over in the kind of southern direction, that could be a big problem.
So one of the things we talked about, one of our, it was last week actually, our finding of emergency management meeting was fires, period, wildfires and residential fires. And training, starting to train law enforcement and fire together. In that aspect, as far as what to do if law enforcement's first one city. What we do when we evacuate, residential areas, et cetera. So that talk has already started from the emergency management level, and hopefully we'll build on it. There's some training videos I'm gonna send out to our guys next week that deal with residential fires. Keep those from spreading, you know, opening doors, breaking windows, and something safety make, possibly make fire. Just because we're, you know, amped up and we want to evacuate people and make sure people aren't going to burn to death, but sometimes they make worse than they actually should be. And so, yeah, so that's some of our training was started.
I mean, that, you know, that's kind of that 9/11 phenomenon, right? We're still doing that. 2023 is how to effectively communicate it across.
Well, a good thing, when I did do the tour of the eastern side of the city with Chief last year, I learned that fires usually go up the hill and not down. That was very interesting. I would have thought the opposite.
All right, let's go, table 3.
Okay, first we've got, our community-oriented police department, well-maintained infrastructure, amazing staff, our great split between, business and residential zoning. Make sure they're got a good ratio, but also the way they're divided, around the city where this residential is fairly well separated from the business areas. Strong financial, balance sheet, great city provided services, flexible work schedule by department and positions, great events that draw people from outside of the city, our volunteers, partnerships with centralized school districts, Spokane Valley Fire Department, Seward Water District, and the hub, low taxes, great community and civic groups like Lions Club and Kiwanis and Rotary, or there's some there, and engaged supportive community, low crime, and along with that good zoning, our well-planned community, and amazing great open and green spaces, including our trails and parks. Weaknesses, reaching certain pockets of our community, like our communication, which we're obviously working on. Lack of diversity in sales tax categories, we're very heavy, as you guys know, with our fees and autos. Uncompetitive PD wage scale. City-sponsored recreation, for example, we obviously have our sports and stuff for the kids during the summer, but we don't have anything at the city for adult leagues, that some of our other cities do. We don't have a rec department. No pool, no true town center, something that's walkable, that is identifiable, this is a great lake. Slim broad rate of choices and high costs, and housing expense and lack of choice. Our opportunity, we talked about tourism development and our opportunities there, especially with rebuilding the trailhead. Undeveloped land equals more sales tax growth. Figuring out a way, I'm going to keep the discussion internal, so we'll figure out a way to work with our neighbors. Growth opportunities for staff and PD, where we weren't big enough in the past, we are now big enough that the staff and our people have the growth track in their careers. And we've been able to take advantage of more staff training and cross training with the departments. And for threats, this was a tough one. The staff turnover, we had a great resignation for a while, and then, the unemployment rate was going down, so people, and this part didn't affect us, but generally, the people were leaving jobs for a little bit higher wage, and now that's coming back down, so we always keep an eye on making sure our staff is well loved and taken care of. Council and commission turnover, a huge threat, as we get new blood, which is great, but there's also a learning curve there. And then weaknesses, with regards to our commute trip reduction program, we hit 80, right, Wendy? 100. We've got some, we're prepared for that, so.
Very good. Any observations there? Some similarities, right? Also some unique things that were identified. All right, table 2. Share with us what you have.
Okay. Strengths, service level. I think we have a service level that's much higher than municipalities. Strengths, financial and economic. Okay, this is critical. Get her done. We have a mentality that falls in line with that. Public safety, obviously a huge strength. Volunteerism, our business climate, competent staff, freeway accessibility. So we have that actually under strengths and weaknesses, so it's kind of twofold. There are definitely strengths to it, and then there's weaknesses to it. Strategic planning, no control over utilities, another one that we have under strengths and weaknesses. And then partnerships, I think that's a huge part of how we function, at least in a staff in City Hall. Weaknesses, emergency management, workforce availability, infrastructure, traffic, like I said before. The fact that we have a little bit of a lack of voice in a small city compared to other municipalities. Lack of hospitality, hotels, and growth, resistant to change, and then lack of civil service. Opportunities, we wrote down community engagement, attract businesses, redirect tourism funds, and in-house services. So that meant we provide, as we grow, we're providing more and more in-house services versus relying on contractors who are in-house. And then threats, we wrote economic stability is always a big threat. Neighbors and politics in general, sales tax as our only revenue source, and then no control over utilities. That's a threat, and I guess that was a strength and a threat. And then west side politics, so politics on that side of the mountains, and then red tape.
All right, very good. So you can see how this kind of cascades, right? So we built kind of this picture of the environmental context that we're operating in, and now we've kind of identified the things that the city is doing, positioned in that environment, right? So we're going from large picture external to our picture internal, and now we're going to move on. And what I want you to remember about this particular exercise as we move on, and we'll revisit this, is the challenge here is how do we accentuate the strengths, minimize the weaknesses, take advantage of the opportunities, and neutralize the threats to the extent that we can, right? So as we go on to the next couple of exercises, kind of keep that concept in mind, because that's really the special sauce when we get to, you know, determining what strategic priorities are and how they fit together. So we've got a break scheduled. Here it is, we've got it scheduled for 15. We don't necessarily need to take that if everybody wants to get started back sooner. But remember, restrooms on both sides. When you come back, you're gonna switch tables. So take your handouts and your stuff, but leave the pens and the pads. And when you get back, we'll read out the second half table. All right, for this is gonna be a short one. The forecast hair of this is gonna be longer. So think of it as we're looking back 10 years and we're looking forward 10 years. This is the look back. And so on the look back, I just want highlights. We're just kind of talking about major things, right? And so those major things fit into these categories. What notable results occurred in the city? What policies and strategies were developed that produced those? What events happened? What were the socioeconomic factors, capital investments, those kinds of things? And so as we go, we're talking about these things that kind of span over 2013 to 2022.
The last 10 years or more.
So we're not looking for things in each year, right? Specifically, we're just kind of where generally did some of these things occur? So we're looking back to get a sense of how we got here to, what is this, March 4th, 2023. Okay.
So are we looking internal or external?
So, yeah, so these, good question. Yeah, so these are things that are particularly related to the city organization. But what, in each of these categories, did the city do, or did the city achieve, or happened because of a decision the city made? What capital investments did we make that made a game-changing impact? Those kinds of things.
Okay. Well, capital investments might be easier. Well, we got our library, but that was, I think. Oh, well, 2010 library. Library. Okay. Two library. Yeah. 2013, it wasn't done.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
Not one of them, not good.
So what's your preference to read it?
It's newer, changed name, but it's not the same.
Good have more. You were there.
Right. That is.
Well, that's started, no, I think because we blended them together on. So it was a good relationship. Yeah. Yeah, well, I want to, yeah, so we're doing, that's the. This is the cat's. That's. So it's hard to watch. It's like, oh, yeah, the nose. Well,
So we've done advantage change.
You should go ahead, you know.
No, but the fact that. I think it's fine. We have changed that.
Yeah, we should, 2000.
Yeah.
it had only been.
It's just. Homes were built in minus the four.
So the city's strategy is
I believe that was quarantine.
implementation.
That was.
We're still benefiting.
Well, it's more than that.
Events when we started.
Strategy, so we brought it.
Yeah, yeah, well, the country was all. There's that.
Started for you.
I was starting with even 2003.
Right there.
Over in.
Lessons where.
Oh, sure.
Venus, I will show. Also, those are the and then people.
From the first three now. You're in the same place. You all first three.
That's why we said, you know, where. Why we went ahead and made that.
Got an assignment. Director. Over here. Right. Just come take a look around. Stop, and she said, this is your city center.
So, when did they come also? 2012, yeah.
So. Well, that would.
Doug suggested it.
2 years old.
Joe. And so I started researching it, there was scope right on there.
Very, very first.
Oh, is that your friend? So the entire, the heavy, they got it went really. Yeah, but that's been heavy and that's it.
Hey, you know one that's.
Yeah, you're right, that would have been.
2013.
No one population is. Yeah, it's just got resurrected yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's another one. No, nope, we're gonna, touch truck 2.0 is gonna be part of our.
Oh,
So
it's
that's
gonna be.
2.0. It's quite as big as touch truck itself. There will be a component. Okay, that touch truck. The equipment.
Yes, for sure.
Loaders.
And
Two loaders. Infrastructure.
Yeah, but that's also the difference.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I don't know if that'd be,
Yeah.
so zero economic factor, or would that be?
That's one of those, where you can fit, I mean, you can fit that in, thinking about it, it's the car.
Oh, we should put Parks and Arts Commission too. 2000,
I think so. You got that one?
And then it's got quiet.
Yeah. But we leverage our funds for that. Library building.
That's a big one. I mean, what was socioeconomic? 2021.
And it came out, it was an uncertain, it's like, what kind of spot it it's all out. Socioeconomic would be, yeah, how-
But also. And the fact, I don't, you might, this is mostly.
Because we could then utilize.
Cities. Would be like this only one about.
You know.
I mean, I think, so that started, I don't know which one it was, I wonder. Growth has and solid and growth meetings.
And I started jumping up and down.
Growth in departments, growth in
Department growth and service.
and services, all the way around. But that was in 2011. No, when I started, there were only
Right.
2 full-time employees.
Yeah,
Now we're.
We have this.
And we went from 120,000 $160,000 budget. Down to 11 to now over 1.5 million. Was that's insanity.
80 and staff.
Total, how many?
We're at.
We went from, in 2011, 26%. And that's not including the season. About 100. Oh, yeah. Great, great.
I should say in terms of result.
So we have.
Like we mentioned earlier, with that launch.
Yeah, that's cheap.
So in terms of the original. Which is, yeah, but that was in 2009.
That's like a very first. Oh, and then it was. Oh, soccer. Yeah.
Living Creek was here. First year, so it's before it was on Parks and Arts.
That's right.
And I
before
took the
the-
picture of you guys planting. That year.
It was, the year after.
Oh, yeah. So the conference was built in 2012.
13. Celebrated. The Brittner was there. He was stepping in for Peter Cat, mayor. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
lessons?
Lots.
You haven't touched on certain areas, you know.
Yeah.
You've got the, so,
Well, I would say it is.
You know, I mean, capacity, yes.
So we're not either. Her
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
and you didn't have a big wall.
This made it, great master class.
Oh, yeah.
Training you well.
50% rainy day fund was 15% rainy day. I didn't get somebody.
That really. That was just one of the.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I.
Somebody's seen out of election. I mean, he might be less around doing it. He's staying, like, stay. There was he come in and down. On his house. So by the time, when I got in, we had a nice nest egg, I was just fine. His apartment and my, and then at the end of my term. It filled back up to this one. I'll say this, that was,
You said that's like record.
that was 2000, at the end of 2011. Yeah, so that'll.
All right. So for the history, for the look back, at the highlight level, we're not gonna outbrief on this one. So what you've got now, put in your respective swim lanes up here, and then back to the tables and we'll move on to the next one.
We expect a lot out of orange.
We did have it.
That's what I'm saying. I expect a lot out of the orange.
Everybody come over once if you like to do that. There's no order here.
It's gonna be a track.
We have one event. What event? Socioeconomic.
One event.
COVID. Oh.
That's an important one.
I don't know if I can put it this in there. What else do we have?
You know, we leave from one, yeah.
And open that, these are.
EVs.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I think it's just.
Those aren't beds, those are.
Orchard is-
Capital investment.
Orchard.
Yeah, back to, so I didn't, I did not, you should have.
Sorry, guys, I went a little overboard. I got way back.
We had to.
Boy, we don't have very many notable results here.
That's okay,
It's not on the.
we were at the highlight stage here.
Oh, good. I would say that the facilities, which that's in are the.
Instead of capital investment.
Well, the capital investment are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them up on notable results then.
And over down.
In 3 years. Years later.
I was here.
So as Chris is rounding out the sticker pudding, there's a lot more on there than when we kicked off this exercise, it sounded like we were gonna have, yes? I mean, once the juices started flowing, you came up with quite a bit of stuff.
Not really, but I'm.
Put her on print.
That's
why brainstorming was changed. Are they all up there by date?
No,
Just put it out.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark, I didn't go in the parameters.
That's all right. All right, now we're gonna shift and we're gonna look at the 10-year period between 2023 and 2032. And if you look at the, at some of the material in the info binder, this can help as you're having this conversation, right? You look at some of the revenue trends, some of the population trends, that kind of stuff. Also, when you're thinking of this future mapping, the focus obviously in the future, right? We're now talking about predicting or putting expectations out there. What key things should influence the city's desired future state? In the look back, we talked about what things did happen to influence how we got here to today. Now we're going to be focused on what needs to happen, what should happen for us to get to this desired future state. Now, I realize we haven't talked about what that vision is, and that's on purpose. We don't want to craft, we don't want to get bogged down in wordsmithing a vision statement. But whatever you have in your mind is that desired future state. This is where we want that input to come from in these respective bands. Okay, so they're essentially the same bands, but now we're talking going forward. What desired results do we need? What new policies and strategies will help get us there? What will our service demands look like in this 10-year period? What are the socioeconomic factors that are going to impact this period? And what capital investments do we need, knowing all of this growth is coming? So we're going to take longer than the last one, because in this one, we want details. And we're not looking for precision because we're predicting, right? But we're talking need. So we want to get into the details. Yes. If that wish falls into your desired future state, absolutely. Pretty much, I don't see between that and all the way
Desired results, how would you too small. I would say. Certainly to courtyard. Yeah. Strategy to get rid of it earlier, better partnerships.
Was it partnership with, yeah.
DOT. Well, our libraries. There's been several that wanted to there are thousands of them. They probably used to have a 10-year pay. So all right, that's why it's got to be better. Well, that's kind of what it said in our.
Oh, did it?
That's mine. Closer to You know, the community. I don't know.
There's like 50,000 for this year and like.
Correct.
So I just-
Say that.
Yeah.
Expected.
You're showing lanes. The team that- no, we can use it. Services.
Yeah.
Starting to be in a library.
So eventually they have very different spacing for position. And so that's the problem.
For one day, please. Check it the next day. Guys, we played it every day. And she wrote it down in a list for phone. Check. Start with your part, guys. Yeah, Mike's out. He had his foot in. So that's partly the problem. Mike is the one who keeps all that together. It's just the other two and you have to coach them. Yeah, a little bit. He's up. He's coming back. Thirdly. Personally, to get third.
I need to bring you a card.
He's the reason that works on it. And so if you notice a difference, that's the difference.
He does anything. George.
Yeah.
You can put a new face on it.
Yeah. Yes, but that's the thing that we have, we did it like this.
That one was fun. Talking about what you're.
Yes.
Guys, over years, we've got the state yard. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, it's gonna be mixed use, but it's.
So that, I'm not sure.
Mr. Corollary. My opinion is that. Oh,
On the other side.
Oh, I got you, okay.
And I keep wanting somebody, these up into my head when
On the Apple Way,
I was talking to your insurance.
is that
Leave it
something
safe.
that they're doing?
You said, yeah,
I'm talking about.
Mhm.
There's a, yeah.
that is over by mission.
That's the.
I saw it. Came showed me.
Yeah.
And then they took about.
Yes. Oh, seriously? I didn't know that before.
Yeah, Russ wrote a whole.
That's the core.
That's
That public commercial, right?
Commercial slating, bigger issue, but you also have more housing.
Yeah, and then you had the lake villas. And then. Was that, design for commercial and then you?
It was actually
Energy.
design, so, but they kind of moved. It was design.
Oh, sure.
And it was supposed to be the toward the bottom, the offices, and then your.
That went away. So that's true that I can make.
Yeah, so they were able to extract it out, and that's how we got. Very well. Yeah, you are on top of her. Yeah. That's what the limitations right.
Oh, okay.
Mixed
Well, so much like what
I can't remember, but we have.
Has that and otherwise we're gonna find out the reality is that the freeway is not getting.
We just got.
Going out that way to the west.
It was all commercial.
Yes, right. But it's a good point.
Yeah.
But
Everybody else
it's gonna be built out with that. Residential meaning. And which I think a lot of service in there, but.
Right, well, again, it was supposed to be that mixed use, like, actually works. Yeah, commercial, office, residential up above. But again, you gotta help me out, she's got to stay there, they, they're gonna put here, because somebody's actually there. That's what we. Yeah, I don't know if that's that one.
I'm trying to get this. Also. That person, just that you're the one.
So. Wouldn't, unless we're doing expansion.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All of that. But right now, I think I seem very good now. Part of that, they have done that. That's what yes. But, yes, they're not.
I think really it's gonna be asset management fairly shortly, because we're all figured out
Right.
what we can add on. Which is supposed to be something at Greenstone on the out north that goes right. I haven't heard of the city or anything about it. And what I did hear years ago was that native parts, so very little. I don't know where.
That's the one that's closest to the bridge. It's all right.
No. There's gonna be one. So the east of the bridge, down by Tree.
Yeah, that whole.
Along the river. I was talking about over where you were.
The west side, that's really the.
That trailhead, the harbor trailhead, what you're talking about, yeah, he's talking about.
That's just not the park, so you're talking about.
So, city parks, HOA.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, Greenstone.
Oh, good.
We're not gonna.
Traffic lights.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. 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 Yeah.
Is it one? Yeah.
Where we had.
The massacre?
Yeah. Before that, it's about 1 mile.
No, that's all. That's none of the trails.
Our city was about.
Yeah, this was the option. The policies and strategies. I was just talking about driving around.
Almost there.
Oh, I'm not really sure.
Well, they don't.
I don't think down here.
They're very skeptical. Get us to have that. Good reason. Right. Was not started here. We started. Vice President on that. What about this?
Current facilities.
And what about our? Well, and actually, we're gonna have.
Yeah. Yeah. Storage, yeah. So we get our stuff. So that's. They have to really. It's kind of come and go over the years.
Right.
And it's never. The problem is we're tapped out. And it should be a topic. Because
Bill said you guys wanted this bill.
Yeah, somebody.
You can't get there.
No, it almost wanted to be. Or incorporate something in the new.
Yeah, it's something. They're just kind of.
That's okay, but they just wanted to. I understand that.
Yeah.
Maybe versus the Berlin guy.
Yeah. They could.
I don't know where, like, I don't know where they want to speak that. It's. They have that same conversation on the library. Staff up there.
Yeah.
I guess the whole thing. I guess putting free stuff. Yeah.
Well. We knew that we were making cancel business and all this. That changes. I got a great spot for it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
I know it's originally.
Sir, so that was great.
Yeah.
This is out.
Oh, really?
Yes. That means. So they used to start. Because we weren't gonna wait. That'll change it. Everything got it.
Flexibility. Yeah.
So,
But they're gonna benefit from all the.
right, so. That, so that is true. That is true.
Oh, but that, oh, that. Oh, that was, that called out. Yeah. so there's that big, and then call that- What? I think it's right there. Yeah, like, it's- okay, that's part of it. So, lower is right here.
Yeah, as you, as on all sides, they had more. I think more space than we needed.
Yeah, so. Yeah, so one of the supply for, get the church, you have that little building. It's right here, so it's whatever this building is, or this space.
I've got a good.
You're starting from. It's, yeah, no. I think that's what it is. So.
We've got about 4 clock minutes left on this piece. before we start outreach. Do we feel okay about that time? Do we need more time? Good, all right.
One area, the one area.
Yes.
So they. They're actually.
Yeah, you can find it offline. Yeah. That's where you get some of the dog ones. Because a lot of. They're limited by them. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to get the info. It's very much casual. Something's fun. Yeah, that could. That's pretty. It's like the heart monitor. I think, so, not mine, no, it's a special. phone. Dedicated just for that. This, this is for the dogs, and then some doctor thing, it's usually this, just on all it does, literally, it's heart monitor, that's it, but it's also really wild. Yeah, and just a sticker, like there's no pack. You just stick it on and it looks like a coupon. Wow. I think on, in the future service demands from the staff perspective, it's important that it's continued clarity from council on what it is. Gone through so many years of then. Never been, it's never. We want you to do this less with the fact that which finish you are. I mean, you guys have been phenomenal.
Expectations.
And continue communicated. Yeah.
Take it a present for something. I don't know if we have any control over that either.
You don't. But we. The marketing part almost very finished with food. Oh, later we get the fire rates. I know, Instagram was not the same, but small as I did, but we all do what. It's so much harder now.
So what we want to start doing now is getting all of these
Was
things
that?
up in their respective bands.
Yeah.
And once they're up there, I'm gonna ask one person from each team to kind of talk about what you would consider to be the most significant thing in each of those bands that needs to happen in order to influence your desired future state.
You're on a roll.
Oh, where am I?
We have to stand first, right?
We would still be on that. I know, you never get out of
You
it.
know, it's a 2-day.
Yeah.
12 words.
Yeah, I still remember all the things that came together over us parking as we were doing it.
Was that when you were doing the ball?
Building buildings that every time we talk about second floor.
So welding.
Well, they were trying to get all the electrical, they were some parking over ahead what you were doing.
Here's a desired result, digital and Apple Way and certainly, right? That's great. Policy would be. Service for 8. And policy. Policy. Use policy. I think I'll. All these other sessions. Did you put others, you did a little thing, put right the double ways, this would be under capital investment. Here, these are all capital investments. It is. State of the art technology, that's right. Let's put this in here. I'll take these out. One of the reasons why that she's doing so is
I was then in 2019. This was over 2013 time.
All right. So, let's see, let's start with table 3. Kind of walk us through one that you would consider to be the most significant in each of those bands. Share with the rest of us what that is.
Jed, it's all you.
One in each of the bands?
Yeah, one will be green.
Let's see here, staffing levels to meet community expectations for level of service, so desired results. So that's across the board, PD, staff in all the departments. Service demands, let's see. Recreation department was something that came up. I guess we didn't have any in socially economic, capital investments, city hall, policies and strategies, 2028 tax revenues, 13 million-ish. I didn't write that down, I'm not sure what that means.
All right,
That's what we got.
all right, let's go to table 2.
Go on.
Just pick one in each band that you consider to be, on most significant and share with the rest of the group.
be debt free by 2032. Again. And then start and finish the buildings like we do in the library. And then policies and strategies. We talked about the first time the tax base, which is a long-term thing, but that's what I'm strategy around how school and engagement.
Okay. Very good. Tip one.
So for desired results, we talked about kind of what we're doing right now, this activity that we're doing to achieve the desired result is develop a vision for build out. What do we want this city to look like when it's not going to continue to expand it right now? And how do we want that community feel? How are we going to fund things? What does that service delivery look like? And so that's all part of this kind of session and these string of sessions that we're going to do. So everybody's on the same page on what we want those desired results to be. And so service demands, I think everybody's kind of on the same wavelength. Staffing to accommodate the growth. Obviously, we have in Liberty Lake this appearance that we want to maintain that is on a different level than a lot of the cities. I think we all know that, and we just want to maintain that to the best of our ability. Socioeconomic factors, we're dealing with this right now, but what does the homelessness situation look like in 5 years? What does it look like in 10 years? Is this on our doorstep? But we are accounting for that right now. And how do we continue to account for that? Capital investments, just continuing to maximize, this is kind of my wheelhouse, but the TIF and the benefit, that strategy that was put in place back in 2006 has been enormously beneficial for the city. And so we can go through 2031 on that, and there's possibly opportunity for an additional 5-year extension after that, but that has been a slam dunk for the city in terms of capital investments and building out the city how we want it. And then policies and strategies. How can we partner with neighboring agencies to accomplish a lot of these shared goals that we're trying to? So, for instance, how do we get 3 lanes on? How do we eliminate that choke point in Liberty Lake? How can we better partner with the valley on some shared beneficial uses of.
All right, very good. So, I can't remember which page it is, but somewhere in there, you've got a graph on population. And those numbers came out of the build out analysis that we've already done, and it's been updated a couple of times. So this is the most recent update, but for the period of this strategic plan, which is, if all things go according to schedule, between 24 and 28, we're gonna add another, what does it say, 2,300 or so people, right? So you have to, as we're thinking about this forecast in this future state, this desired state, what if adding another 20% onto the population look like, right? We have to think in those terms, and we've already experienced that. Looking back to 2010, we went from, I want to say 7,500 to 12,000, huge jump. And then if we look forward to 2028, we're going to add another 2,300. Okay, so we've gone through, and as we transition, we've gone through and we've kind of talked about the context of the environment that we're operating in. Then we talked about how the city is actually operating in that environment with respect to its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then now we've talked about looking back 10 years and looking forward 10 years on all of these significant things and focusing on the future, all of these significant things that you all believe need to occur in order to achieve our desired state at that time, at that 10-year mark. 2032, right? So now bring that forward, those things on the forecast side, right? I know we didn't outbrief on every single one of them, but at your respective tables, you had a conversation that touched all of these. So think about those things on that forecast side that you want to bring forward. And this is really where we get to the special sauce, right, of this conversation. And we're getting into the home stretch here. I made up this word, and so I'm gonna trademark it, but it's prioritization, right? We're creating priorities. So again, the focus is on the future. And it's okay that we went out 10 years, because we want to know what all those things are. But in this particular conversation, we're gonna focus on that strategic plan period, that 5-year period, right? We want to talk about, in light of all of those things that we just went over, what does the city need to prioritize to get there in the next 5 years? And so we're gonna emphasize the outcomes in this exercise. What outcomes need to happen, and how do we prioritize? And so when you're having this conversation at your table, use the ing words, right? What does that look like? We're gonna complete, we're going to complete this, we're completing whatever, we're building whatever, we're growing whatever, those kinds of things. And so in 5 years, what outcomes need to happen and how should they be prioritized in order to get to that you've defined in the forecast? All right, any questions? Go for it.
So we're desired results.
Priorities. So leading or building.
And this is really where you want to go for quality. There's nothing out of balance here.
What's that? Before the horse. I think that's we did that. We needed.
So we are planning out for that, but it changes, but we only.
Thanks.
Crazy unforeseen. Situations.
The communication.
Say by better engagement with. Yeah.
But what the issue is that
Well, I mean, Wording.
Flexibility. But I was just changes. Yeah.
Yes, well, you know, we could do that would be taken, we have it in place now. What's the last one? And then back.
It looks at it. What I think. But we're paying for saying.
And so then. Right. Put it up on.
Yeah.
Love it, they have heard what he's-
Yeah. We're gonna have those. That one would be a time increase, so
That's my little. So I must say-
status quo. So.
Oh,
yeah.
Summer. That's just, you know, that's up front.
So.
Yeah, you've been here for a while, have I.
I agree, it's confident. Yeah.
How about, we're trying not to be more. Sitting. Besides being transparency. Yeah. Also, city government, in city government. Everything. Everything we do. should be transparent. To citizens especially. Yeah.
Well,
We do, but don't.
Yeah.
That's all.
Partnerships going on. One thing is,
Where? Yeah. So that's.
Very good.
Whatever they do.
A large enough. Put a water extender there. Make it better. Yeah, charge. Yeah.
Presidents.
Don't look at me, I'm in the-
I'm looking for-
Thank you. Can't make it.
Yeah.
But you
I
got-
think it's more that people that are being, you know, you would think that, yeah, and when it's starting to get over, you put rather than and the sections. Yeah, like that, make it real. I don't think it would really.
Signature, it started it all.
It wasn't the two that had gotten
It was there, that, those, we were already up.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I mean, really back when the city's in a great spot.
you know,
It was.
today, going forward. Everybody walking around.
Today.
Not even.
Five ago there, so.
We bring it down because.
Whether it's.
Yeah, I
We're all going to be social.
So it is.
Yeah, that is probably.
Start somewhere. I like everybody to have this in its routine. Yeah.
All right, what else do we have on here?
Take a couple more minutes. Finish up, and then what I'm gonna ask you to do is to pick your top 5 to 7. And then we're gonna talk about it.
Change. Even for real, that's over. So. Growing.
So, I mean, when you think about, we talk a lot about different.
Community engagement.
There's two things on this one.
Better. I mean, strategically speaking, those are the things that we should be thinking about. As we grow as a community, whatever, what we expect.
Well, if you've got your top five identified, stick them up there.
Funny.
Right.
It's almost like the arts idea is working.
Yeah,
And,
so-
and I would just in case of fairness, I would say that.
That's a good one.
Let's make it, this is, I mean, along.
Oh, I was in third year.
Execute our.
This is-
Have a plan.
There you go.
Like a bud.
So.
I do this in my driveway. It's 6:38 at this point in my pocket.
It's hard to bring.
I'm calling you at 3:30 in the morning, Chris.
Huh?
I'm calling you at 3:30 every morning.
No, you're not, no, you're not.
Judgment, it's just not doing. Do after you go through major surgeries now, that you say. There's people always. And you're so tired, you can't even imagine.
Yeah. Now I just want that other stuff. But that's like, wow.
Probably still in school. Especially cardiac.
So, oh, 175. So we have a plan.
You sure? Some good leverage, but now.
She started off strong.
I know, this is like, I'm living in.
Yeah.
That's okay, that would be done.
This one.
All right. So we're just gonna read through all of these and then we're gonna start kind of grouping them, all right? Maintaining roads, parks, infrastructure. Expanding two-way communication with broader cross-section of residents. Saving cash to pay the trailhead debt early. Completing library and PD. Developing and completing master plans for town square, sidewalks, trails, stormwater. Attracting businesses that draw people from other communities. Great job. Increasing citizen awareness.
All kind of along the
Oh,
same
this is
line.
the same thing. Okay, increasing citizen awareness through comprehensive communication engagement. Fixing community misrepresentations, I think. Misperception, sorry. Emphasizing transparency citywide to build and improve public trust. Let's see, executing CFP, maintaining what we have. Help me with this one. Managing assets, prioritizing public safety, adapting to change. Competing for available resources, growing our seat at the regional table. Nice work. I'm not sure what answering maybe, is that answering housing, no. Assuring housing for the people of the community, moving through capital facilities plan, streamlining processes, building, expanding city hall, planning for the land use of town square, building the staff required to deliver the required services. All right, great job getting down to these 5 to 7. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start, putting these together. Before we start doing that, does anyone have in your remaining things, anything that sounds like these? If you do, put them up and I'll include them. Okay, well, save those. All right. Let's see, what sounds like we've got, I saw maintaining in a couple of places. We've got maintaining. We've got maintaining and managing assets. Let's see.
Which is all part of the capital facilities plan. Those are all things that are included in capital facilities plan, so when we talked about it, we said implementing the capital facilities plan, including exactly that.
Sure. So we've got moving through capital facilities plan. You're saying that goes with these?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. See what else? We've got executing CFP, that is like those. All right, expanding two-way communication with residents, got communication focus, increasing citizen awareness through communication engagement, those go together. Fixing community perceptions, transparency, those all go together. All right. Got planning for town square. Got master plans for town square and other things. Got public safety. Building staff. What else do we have? I saw another staff related one somewhere, I thought.
Well, the city hall one is somewhat connected to building staff.
Okay.
You can't build staff.
Building, expanding city hall. I'm gonna put adapting to change in there. This isn't gospel here. We can change these. Completing library and PD. Does that go in CFP? Okay. Attracting businesses. We've got competing for available resources. Growing our seat at the regional table. I'm gonna put that in a separate place. We've got, let's see. Streamlining process kind of goes to organization. I'm gonna put that there. Housing. Competing for available resources. Where does that go? Is that its own thing, or does that go with one of these that we've already got?
I think it kind of goes with the ones out on their places.
Okay. At the regional table?
Yes.
All right. We've got attracting businesses that draw people from other communities. Is that its own thing, or does it go with these, anything else that's already?
Kind of economic development. There.
No. Unless you still have it, which is possible. So economic development, and then we've got saving cash to pay trailhead debt. Is that in resources? Is that in organization? CFP?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we've got a heavy emphasis on CFP, we've got housing, we've got economic development, we've got planning, we've got public safety, we've got growth at the regional table, we've got an internal focus, streamlining, staffing, all of those things, and we've got communication. Do we feel comfortable with those groupings? Does anything need to flip from one to the other? Okay, does anyone else have anything that they haven't put up yet?
I think it's interesting, we all talk, I think on top of everybody's mind is public safety is always number one, but it hasn't made it up here because I think we all make that assumption. It's always gonna be number one for everybody.
Okay, so it looks like you've got some additional ones. You have, what do you have left?
tourism promotion strategy.
So it's economic development, okay?
Staffing. Thing. Back into very business.
This is the overachieving table. Put them in the, good job. If we need to create a new group, create a new group. You wanna group them where they go?
Sure.
And if we need to create a new category, create.
Or achieving group, use that.
Because it's because Chris identified that as the top thing.
Like where the covenants go with the land. The promise goes with the table.
Exactly.
All right, so right now at least, and this can change, we're not making final decisions today. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 group categories. Right, we feel comfortable with what we've come up with here. Okay, awesome. All right, last thing. Looks like we're gonna wrap up early. Okay. So, walking back through, we've done all those things that we've talked about. We've built the context, we've talked about the city's operation in its environment, right? We've looked at the past, the future, now we, but in order to get to that desired state, we need to prioritize these outcomes. We need to focus on these things, right? So let's assume we've done that. We're looking forward now, and we're talking about casting a vision. These are some things that I wanted to throw up just for context, right? And Visit Spokane's publication, or at least on their website, if you go to the our cities, I think is what it is. For Liberty Lake, this is what they have. And you can see how old that information is, right? But it talks about things like drawing people in, it's up and coming, it's dynamic and active, all these things. Family and business friendly. We look at the Inlander from 2021. Liberty Lake is many things. Last stop in Washington before you cross into Idaho. We talked about that in one of our exercises before. She talks about that frequently. Growing hub for manufacturing and tech businesses. That was the topic of conversation here. Scenic place to live. Got parks, trails, golf courses. Liberty Lake is where you'll discover new places to eat, shop, and explore. We've seen some restaurant development up and shopping over the, if you look at that history, I'm sure we've got some of that sprinkled in there. And then our own vision statement, and this one is from the strategic plan, which is a derivative of the much longer one in the comprehensive plan. And you know what that is, you've seen that before. The thing that I want to point out for this discussion, this final piece, is that vision statement was put together in 2002. And if in your packet, you go to that page, there's a sentence in there that is in the comp plan, both as originally adopted and has been preserved in all of its updates up to 2015. Andy, what does that say in quotes? I can't read that far. Yes.
Intended to provide guidance for public and private decision makers who will be responsible for the future of the city of Liberty Lake in the next 20 years.
So that 20 years expired sometime in 2022, right? And we can add plus or minus a couple of years to that, right? I mean, but the point is that vision that was cast 20 plus years ago. Now, that doesn't mean it still isn't applicable. If that's the vision for the next 20 years, great. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And so with our final exercise here, I just want you to kind of take a look, and we're going to do this as a group. We're not going to do this at a table. Imagine that we're reading the paper, the spokesman review on December 31st, 2028. You can't see that in front of the thing up there. What is it saying? Assuming we've done all of these things, assuming we've completed all of those words that you came up with on these priorities. Assuming we've achieved that desired state that you talk about in your future mapping. What is the above the fold headline about what makes Liberty Lake so awesome say? And what are some sub headlines? What are some sidebars? So let's all kind of throw things out. What does this look like?
It's the safest city in the state of Washington.
Safest in the state?
Well, we're what, like 8 or something, where are we now?
Liberty Lake is the place everybody wants to be.
Oh, we've got safest in state.
Somebody else.
Oh, yeah, what is based on?
Lisa, throw that out. Say again.
Liberty Lake is the city, is the place everyone wants to be.
Wants to be, I'm a Seinfeld fan, it's a place to be, like Frank's Billiard.
I like to know, was it Miller, Liberty Lake's, great place to discover new places to eat, shop, and explore. Get that tax revenue. In parentheses.
What else?
In and Out and, Cheesecake Factory open in Liberty Lake.
No?
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
So, what, more retail, how can we summarize that? More of what you just said.
The Liberty Lake welcomes its 8th new restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's not pizza.
Yeah.
Liberty Lake's in the
So let's follow up on that. Assuming that's where we are, right? Do we want to settle for 8?
And it's like.
And, all right, and we'll go with that. Okay, what else?
The city of Liberty Lake introduced in this season's recreational,
Introduced,
this year, whatever that year, 2032. Yeah,
right plan.
and he introduced the rec calendar. Call that.
Okay.
What do you have on that, the block 2028?
December 31st, 2028, which would be the end of the strategic planning period.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
This is my birthday. Happy birthday, Phil.
Happy birthday. Celebrates Mayor Foyer's. This.
A+ services for all demographics.
Say again, Wendy, A+ services.
A+ services for all demographics. In the Liberty Lake.
Okay. What else?
Major sports tournament at Hub.
Major sports tournament.
At Hub Ball.
What else are we thinking? Anything?
You want like a Hilton or a Marriott to go in? Do we have an hotel?
True by Hilton.
We can use one there.
I was talking to the insurance people, like, come to Liberty Lake, buy one of our hotels.
More hospitality and leisure.
Yeah.
Quality hospitality.
Quality. Something about annexing.
Okay, what else? Anything else?
It won't be quite as good about.
The old river.
North
You
to
just have
Trent.
to-
North to-
Indoor.
That's a cool.
They can voted Washington State.
That's better.
There you go.
Among munis or?
Period.
Period.
Okay.
That's better.
Liberty Lake retained Mark McVeigh.
Not writing that down. Right, when the mayor and I were in Olympia, we talked about things that, the city didn't have, that we may want to look at. What were some of those things? You talked about theater, like a specialty theater?
Yeah, like a dinner theater type, dinner and movie type theater.
Like the old magic planner.
I know, yeah.
Dinner
I was
and
gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, some, yeah.
So like, more entertainment options maybe?
Yeah.
Way back when that was plenty for more in the relay.
The what?
That was plenty for more in the relay.
Oh, yeah.
What's supposed to go out?
What else can we say? You know, yeah, independently owned and hidden businesses. How do we say that?
That was actually.
Yeah, so, you know, because I love the story of how we got Popular Companions. They came in, talked to me at the City Hall, they said, what does a Liberty Lake have? And her answer was a pet store, and that's how we got Popular Companions.
So more niche retail.
Yeah.
But locally owned.
Yeah.
Well, locally owned retail. Do we need to achieve anything with like tax balance or anything like that? At what point?
Sorry, I'm just cutting you off. 2028 would be pretty aggressive, but debt free.
To our debt-free city.
Pays
With payback. for
last-
residents.
The last debt service with golf course revenue.
I remember we shredded the mortgage on City Hall, we paid it off.
Liberty Lake Harvest, 30 to 5.
Yeah.
Oh, 2028. Army Reserve opens regional battalion headquarters.
regional, what do we call that?
Armory.
Well, they were talking this about vault space back, but it says battalion in there.
There was a word we were using, I forget what it was.
Readiness center.
Readiness center.
That would be the step below the battalion word.
The site where we agree. Liberty. House.
Yeah.
You know, the station begins. County,
PLIDO.
county, what is it? Which market?
Are we saying opens or is
Well, that's only 5 years from now, so it would begin.
begins construction? Breaks ground?
What?
Yeah,
So we
Trader
just say
Joe's
like
is
really
one of the main,
Year-round public market.
Yeah. Trader Joe's opens.
It's always been, yeah, it's always Chick-fil-A, Trader Joe's. Oh.
Relays on the free.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
cut ribbon on third lane?
There you go.
There you go. 5 years.
Wait. The North South Freeway will be.
Strikes deal to zero.
Yeah.
Doesn't help, they don't plow it or salt it or. Well, they did repeat it. The one has to be start writing it. Yes.
All right. That's a lot. That's okay.
You're dreaming.
We went for volume, yes. Dreaming is good.
Just same quantity.
So what's next? So we've got a proposed schedule. One of the things, we don't want to talk details now, we can do this going forward, but whether we had finalized the acquisition of Thin City or not, we were gonna propose public engagement on this. Now that we have Zen City, we're going to use it to engage the public on this. So we're, again, our timeline is 31 December of 2023. So we can have this in place going forward for the next 5 years. And so we want to go out to the public using Zen City. We've asked the Community Engagement Commission to help us build an engagement so that we can do that on these respective elements. Bring all of that back to you. Not saying we're gonna come back on a Saturday and go through this again, but in some work session, bring that public input back to you so you can see it and how it compares to what we've done today. And then we can chisel away at getting a final version. Does that sound good? Yes. Yeah.
Would we be voting on this before? Can you give me a timeline on when we would take the final vote? The only reason I ask is because something we mentioned earlier with the change in the city council.
Right.
There's 3 positions, I think, that were appointed, so therefore the new, whoever wins those races obviously would be put in place as soon as the election is certified, as opposed to January. So I just don't want to put them in a position of change, but I don't want to put them in the position of the new council members in the position of having to prove something that they.
Sure.
And
And
what, December, what certified?
Usually November 28th or something like that.
yeah, so historically, or at least with this one, the one that's in effect now, it went with the budget, and any of the updates that have been made have gone with the budget. Doesn't mean we have to continue to do that. So if we want to consider pushing it out later, we can do that, certainly. That really is up to council, or doing it early, yeah, absolutely. Sliding it one way or the other really is up to you.
I just would need for the 3 people who are
Sure.
going into those positions to go forward and get them in a position of voting for something they've never.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And so if we want to consider sliding it up, we can absolutely do that. We have plenty of time for that to happen. Just that's kind of the general schedule. Everybody comfortable with that? Yeah. All right. So I'm planning to bring kind of a summary and next steps, segment and the city administrator report on Tuesday. So hopefully I have all of this synthesized by then, but then we'll just keep building on the city. So we'll go ahead and cut it here unless anyone wants to stay for the next 20 minutes.
Well, feel free to